Engineering the unthinkable. Future megaprojects transforming the world.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're looking at something that absolutely blows my mind. The future isn't just existing in our imagination anymore. It is already being built right here on Earth, in some of the most untouched and hostile places imaginable. We are conquering the impossible using nothing but steel, glass, concrete, and raw, unfiltered ambition. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at conquering the oceans, engineering the sky, taming extreme environments, powering the future, and finally, altering the planet itself. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, conquering the oceans and engineering beneath the waves. For centuries, the ocean was this untamable, completely unpredictable barrier. But today, our relationship with the deep has completely transformed. We aren't just fighting the waves anymore. We're actually coexisting peacefully right beneath them. Have you ever had dinner beneath the ocean? Imagine sitting down for a meal. The blue sea is stretching out just beyond the glass, and you've got sharks and sea turtles swimming directly above your table. Well, that's exactly what you get at the Ithaca Undersea Restaurant in the Maldives, sitting about 16 feet below the surface. It's built entirely out of glass, a stunning 175-ton marvel that was actually completed in Singapore and then lowered super precisely right onto a coral reef. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most bizarre engineering visuals you're ever going to see. Up top, hundreds of boats are just calmly moving across a water bridge. But below, 28,000 cars are rushing continuously underneath that very same lake. This is the Veluwemeer Aqueduct over in the Netherlands. To make this work, engineers had to use 22,000 cubic meters of concrete just to fight the upward force of the water. They created this incredible intersection where boats and cars cross paths every single day without anyone ever having to stop. It totally redefines how our transportation networks can just seamlessly layer right into the natural world. But what if the ships above you are absolutely massive? Well, that brings us to a really staggering number, 251 feet. That right there is the world's highest bridge deck clearance, and it belongs to the Shenzhen-Zhongshan Link in China. It literally looks like a giant ribbon suspended in the air, and it was purposefully built that high to let enormous cargo ships pass right beneath it on their way to global markets. But sometimes going high just isn't an option. Engineers were faced with an incredibly complex terrain problem when connecting two countries. They needed to do it without blocking ships or airplanes. A super tall bridge? That would block flight paths near the Copenhagen airport. But a lower one, that blocks the large cargo ships. So the hybrid solution goes like this. Step 1, build an open roadway as a 5-mile cable-stayed bridge. Step 2, seamlessly transition that highway at an artificial island called Paberholm. And then step 3, the route literally disappears, descending into a 2.5-mile underwater tunnel. It's an absolutely flawless hybrid fix to a seemingly impossible terrain puzzle. Moving right along to Section 2, engineering the sky, defying gravity. So we're moving from the heavy pressure of the ocean floor up to some dizzying, vertiginous heights. Have you ever driven on a road higher than the Eiffel Tower? Because if you cross the Mila Viaduct in southern France, that is exactly what you're doing. Reaching about 1,100 feet at its highest point, engineers actually had to use highly precise GPS systems just to keep the coordinates aligned on the bridge deck while they were constructing it over this incredibly deep, steeped terraced valley. And reaching these heights isn't just hard, it's genuinely perilous. Just think about the conditions workers face while building the Bluarte Bridge in Mexico. This thing spans a deadly pass known locally as the Devil's Backbone. The gorge is deep enough to swallow the Eiffel Tower whole, with 0 access roads. Workers essentially had to build a city in the clouds just to survive, all while constantly threatened by extreme swirling winds. So how does it stand today? Well, real-time sensors actively measure vibrations, and that helps the cable system completely resist those very winds. It's basically tension, brilliantly solved by modern engineering. What's truly fascinating here is the duality of how we build high in the sky. Take a look at Raffles City Chongqing in China. On one hand, you have this immovable force, a massive 12,000-ton horizontal sky bridge linking these giant towers about 820 feet up. But the secret to its survival isn't rigidity, it's flexible engineering. It actually rests on special bearings that allow for controlled sliding. So instead of fighting earthquakes and powerful storms head-on, it gracefully surfs over those violent waves of seismic and wind activity. It really shows that the future of our urban centers isn't just about building stronger, it's about building smarter and way more adaptable. Now, of course, we can't talk about defying gravity without mentioning one staggering scale: 2,717 feet. That is the height of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the tallest building on planet Earth. It's so impossibly tall that there's a 27-degree Fahrenheit temperature difference from the bottom all the way to the top. In fact, if you watch the sunset at the base, you can hop in an elevator, shoot up to the observation deck, and watch the exact same sunset a second time in the same afternoon. How wild is that? All right, Section 3, Taming Extreme Environments, Man versus Nature. Let's explore how humanity survives some of the harshest biomes on the planet. Blistering deserts, freezing ice, jagged alpine peaks. Check out this concept of invisible architecture. The Moriah Concert Hall, located in the 120-degree Alula Desert of Saudi Arabia, uses over 4,800 square feet of mirrored glass to blend seamlessly into the surrounding sand and rock. It uses technology to literally disappear, honoring the original untouched beauty of the desert. And to make sure it survives, engineers actually develop special mirrors that won't easily crack or turn cloudy under that punishing heat and those intense sandstorms. From burning deserts to freezing peaks, survival takes on a whole new meaning. Sitting at 15,100 feet up in the Alps, just breathing the thin air at the Margarita Hut turns every single moment into a physical challenge. It was astonishingly built way back in 1893, using only human labor and pack mules. And it sits directly in the path of frequent violent lightning storms. So to protect the endurance seekers inside, the entire structure is wrapped in a copper shell that acts as a giant Faraday cage to safely channel those massive electrical strikes away. Let's move over to the freezing Antarctic and see how this builds on the idea of ultimate survival. The bright red and blue Halley VI research station sits right on the constantly shifting Brunt ice shelf, where deadly cracks can form without any warning whatsoever. The solution here? Step 1, mount spacecraft-like living modules onto large hydraulic legs. Step 2, fit the base of those legs with giant mechanical skis. And step 3, when the ice cracks, you literally lift and pull the entire station to a safer location. It survives the most brutal environment on Earth by literally skiing away from danger. Moving right into Section 4, Powering the Future, Harvesting the Elements. Surviving nature is one thing, but we are now actively harnessing its raw, elemental power to generate monumental amounts of energy. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer scale and efficiency of these giants. At the Ju Quan solar facility in the Gobi Desert, you've got 12,000 mirrors acting like a giant artificial sun on the ground, melting salt to store heat, so it actually keeps generating power even after the sun goes down. Then, the Rudong wind farm in the Yellow Sea literally turns violent ocean storms into 2.4 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity a year. And for pure mechanical efficiency, consider the Falkirk wheel over in Scotland. It's this massive boat lift that rotates 500-ton boats using just 1.5 kilowatt-hours. To put that into perspective, that's roughly the energy it takes to boil just 8 electric kettles. And that brings us to our final act, Section 5, Altering the Planet, the Ultimate Scale. We are pivoting now from structures that conquer nature to mega projects so incomprehensibly massive, they are literally altering the physical properties of the Earth itself. Let's start with a classic example of ultimate scale. 125 years. That is how long the enormous concrete mass of the Hoover Dam would have taken to cool and fully harden if left to do so naturally. Seriously. So, to stop the structure from taking over a century to set, engineers had to invent a massive custom ice water cooling system just to force the dam to cure faster. But to comprehend truly modern scale, we have to look to China's Yangtze River. The Three Gorges Dam stores an unfathomable 42 billion tons of water. It is the world's largest hydroelectric dam. Its massive energy output is comparable to about 20 nuclear power plants, acting as the beating energy heart for an enormous population. But here's the thing. The most shocking part isn't the electricity. It's the sheer physical weight. The mass of this stored water has physically altered Earth's moment of inertia, causing the planet to rotate slightly slower. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. Human engineering has concentrated so much mass in one specific geographic location that we have literally slowed the spin of the globe. It perfectly highlights exactly how monumental our footprint on this planet has become. So what does this all mean? The crucial takeaway is this: the future no longer exists only in imagination. It is being built on Earth with steel, glass, concrete, and ambition. As you've seen today, humanity continuously pushes past geographical and environmental boundaries that we once considered absolute impossibilities. From sliding skyscrapers surfing wind currents to underwater highways and invisible desert concert halls, we simply refuse to be limited by our environment. Which leaves us with one final provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. What impossible frontier will we conquer next? Whether we dig deeper into the Earth, reach further into the stars, or build right on top of the open ocean, the blueprint for tomorrow is quite literally being drafted today. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredibly structured journey through human ambition. Stay curious, keep looking at the details, and I'll see you in the next one.